Okay, this is paragraph 5G, simple interest. So in this topic, we're going to be looking at what happens when we borrow money from a bank and then we have to pay back the interest, and how much will the interest be and how much are we going to be paying back in total. Okay, so firstly, let's talk about the notions that we're going to be using here. So the notion we are going to be looking at is interest. What is interest? Well, interest is an additional charge that we tend to pay when we borrow money from a bank. This is very common. It happens in everyday life. And one method for calculating interest would be the so-called simple interest. Now, before we do this, I have to say that most cases are not as simple as simple interest. So in real life, we don't tend to use simple interest as much. We use compound interest more. But this is something we'll see later. Simple interest is a good way to look at a simple introduction to the notion of interest. So simple interest is basically calculated as a fixed percentage of the original amount that we borrowed. And this will depend on the so-called interest rate. And this interest rate will be given as a percentage per annum, which we often write as P.A. So when you see this P.A, it will mean per annum. So it means interest per year. So for example, if you borrow 4,000 euros at a 10% per annum simple interest, it means that basically you calculate 10% of 4,000, which is 400. So we know now that this 400 euros is how much you're going to be paying per year. So let's look at some more examples where we actually have to do the calculations ourselves. Yes. Per year. Yes, this is a very good question now. It's asking how many times will we have to pay this 400 back? It depends on how many years. So this is how simple interest works. You calculate it in the beginning, it's 400, right, per year. So now, depending on how many years you pay back, you will pay 400 per year. So it's nice and simple. That's why usually banks don't use simple interest. They use another type of interest, which is compound interest, which gets larger per year. So you end up paying more than you would have paid in simple interest usually. Well, it depends, right? But let's see. So we go further down and look at this example. So in this case, we have to find the simple interest that we need to pay. So it says payable. That is what we need to pay on a loan of $60,000. So let's put this in a little box here so we keep our minds on this. 60,000 that we borrowed. And the interest rate is 9% per annum. Let me put that in a different box here. So these are the two key important bits of information that we've got. Now remember, PA means per annum, means per year. Okay, so firstly they're saying, what if we pay back for 4 years? What happens in that case? Well, firstly, shall we work out what the interest will be? So we need to calculate what 9% of 60,000 will be. So how can we do this using the multiplier method and our calculators? Does anyone remember how we can find 9% of 60,000 using a one-step method in the calculators? Got it. Okay, listen up, guys. We simply say 9% as a decimal would be 0.09. So we can do 0.09 times 60,000. So I think some of you were thinking of percentage increase and decrease, whereas here it's actually slightly easier than that. All we have to do is go to the calculator and say, okay, calculator, right, I want to find 9% of 60,000. So what I'll do is 0.09 times 60,000. And that gives me 5,400. So the calculator now told us that 5,400 is our 9%. So that is simply the original interest rate calculated on the original amount, which would be 60,000. So this is the interest. This is the interest. Okay, but this is per year. So now times 4. Excellent. Did you hear that? So times 4. All we have to do. Sit down, please join us. Come on. Okay. So all we have to do is 5,400 times 4. And now what he was doing is he was showing me this on the calculator. Excellent, well done on doing this. So we do 5,400 times 4 and we get 21,600. So 21,600 is what? This is the interest, the total interest that we will have to pay back. So this was part A. But now some students are already asking, how do we do part B? So part B is 5 months. Let's see now. He has his own method. I think he's got his hand up. Let's see. How would you do it? Unitary method, meaning? Never mind. You might be on the right track. There might be a method to do it there. What about you? You were saying? How many years are 5 months? Okay. Yes. Yes, you're right. You're right. Well, actually, no. This is saying how much would you pay in 5 months?
First, I'm gonna divide 9 by 12 because it's a year, right?
9 divided by 12. Okay.
It's gonna be 0.75. And I'm gonna multiply that by 5. It's gonna be 3.75% for 5 months.
I think you're on the right track. Let me show you a slightly more straightforward method, which will probably make sense to everyone. Unless there's a method here. 1 second. Yes. Yes, excellent. We got it. Okay, guys, this is exactly what I said. Okay, eyes on the board. Let's do this. But what I said we'll do in one step. Let's say one step. This is it. We know that in 1 year we have 12 months. Now 5 out of 12 is what we need here. So it's 5/12 of how much we would pay per year. So 5/12 times 5,400. Because we know in 1 year we pay 5,400. So what would be 5 months? Well, it would be 5 out of the 12 months of 1 year. So it's 5/12. 1 year has 12 months, right? Imagine it as this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I believe, are the bits. So 5/12 will be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. 5/12 of the whole thing. The whole thing was 5,400. So what we do is we simply work out what 5 out of 12 parts of that is. Now, if this is too confusing, you can do what some other students said. Find 1/12 and then multiply by 5. No problem. But I would say, before we get to questions, please, I would say, what would be 1/12? Well, let's see. Okay, guys, can you do me a favor, please? Everyone, can we please finish the example, and then I'm going to give you opportunities to say your methods. Keep your hand down, please. I heard you. I saw your hands. Listen up. This is important. I'm doing a recording here so that you can use this later to revise for tests. Okay, so hold on. Hang in there. I'm going to get to each and every one of you. Stop playing with the scissors. Thank you. All right, so here we go. The idea is this. 5/12 of 5,400. How do we do this in one step in the calculator? Well, our calculator has an option for a fraction. So 5/12 is the fraction, and we want to multiply with 5,400. The calculator then can tell us immediately that's going to be 2,250. So this is equal to, you will be able to use a calculator, absolutely, 2,250. Now, let's see the other methods we could have used here. Other methods would be, let's find 1/12 of 5,400. We could say, well, what is 5,400 divided by 12? So that gives us 450. That is 1 month. Then we do times 5, and we get exactly the same result that we got previously in one step. So if you prefer to do it in more steps, spend more calories and press more buttons, absolutely fine. Feel free. If you want to do it in one step, the lazy method would be this. Got a question? Yes, it's exactly that. Yes. So 5 divided by 12 is the same thing as saying 5/12. That's 5 over 12. And then whatever you get from that, you multiply by 5,400. Yes, you got exactly the same answer. It's basically exactly the same method, but you wrote it a bit differently. Yes, any more questions or additions here? What's happening with everyone in the classroom? We're not finished. Are there any questions here? No, okay. All right, let's move on to another example. Here we go. Hopefully this is going to help us understand a bit better what's happening. So here they say, we have a loan of $40,000. We are now borrowing $40,000 at 9% interest rate. So this is 9% interest rate, simple interest rate. So for now, let's get started all together. How do we work out 9% of 40,000? You simply change it to 0.09. And now we do what? We multiply with? Excellent, we multiply with 40,000. How do we do this? Use the calculator, 0.09 times 40,000, once again. So this gives us 3,600. So this is 3,600. This is every how often? This is every how often? Per year. Excellent. Per year. Okay. So now how many years? For 5 years. So what we do is we take this amount and multiply with 5. Now let's see. 3,600 times 5 gives us $18,000. So this is going to be $18,000 in 5 years. Okay. Are we done with the answer? Are we done? So this is $18,000 interest over 5 years. So this is over 5 years. But what was the question? The question was the total amount. Exactly. So when they say the total amount, what do they mean? They mean obviously we'll have to pay back the 40,000 plus 18,000 interest. So now 14,000 plus 18,000. What does that give us in total? It is indeed $58,000. So we will pay back $58,000. That is the total amount to be repaid. So this is the total amount to be repaid. To be repaid, right? To be paid back. And that is the very final answer. And with this in mind, we will be moving on to some independent practice. But before we do that now, I'll give everyone some time to ask questions. Yes.
First of all, I'm gonna find 1% of 40,000. That is 500.
Okay, so he's finding 1% of 40,000. What is that called again? The unitary method. We saw that in a previous lesson. So he's finding the 1%, which is going to be 400. Excellent.
Then I'm gonna multiply 400 by 9.
400 times 9, which is 3,600. Excellent.
And then I'm gonna multiply by 5.
And then you multiply by 5. Excellent. I would probably recommend using your calculator because sometimes we do make mistakes, at least more often than the calculator does. But well done. That's it. All right, let's do it, guys. Good luck with the practice. Let's do this. Let's apply all the methods we saw previously. Use your calculators. Use the method that we saw with the multiplier because that will give us probably the most accurate results. Good luck.